Jamie from Inky&Scrappy, sharing with you today, putting along on a case using Lawn Fawn's new Ta-Da Diorama die set, and it's my first go. Of course, I'm a rebel and don't ever do anything like maybe it was intended, so I do kind of play with it a little bit. Anyways, I'm bringing in the newest stamp set, that Hey There Hayrides, the older one, Hey There, and the Tiny Farm. I've already colored and cut all of my images out. I'll be using them in the next weeks to make some farm style cards. You know I'm all up on this one because, hello, farm girl vibes all over the place. Now, I did lose my second boot. Yeah, don't ask. It's around here somewhere. I need to do a search and rescue mission. I don't know where it's at. So because I lost it, I had to figure out how to die cut those little slots on my second piece. So I ended up just turning the piece of paper over and cut it on the back side. And then when you flip it over, it's, you know, where that other die is supposed to cut it. Yeah. So if you have Jamie issues and you lose stuff, yeah, it's good to know. So for this one, because it's the first time putting it together, I did watch Kelly's, maybe like the first little bit where she's putting it together, but I watched it in high speed because it's just been super busy here. And so there's a few things that I would change along the way next time, but you know, for the most part, I understood what it was supposed to do from the little bit that I caught. And so, you know, here's me making it up as I go because that's how I am. So I'm bringing in the Slimline the Slimline cloud stencil. I can't talk today either. And making my background kind of I wanted it to be kind of seamless, so the inside and the outside kind of just all meshed together. Now, I didn't do it totally right. I should have, and I realized it once I had the clouds done, that I should have moved that back panel, should have been over on top of where that first score line is on the short score, and then it would have been seamless on the inside of my card as well as on the outside of my card, but it works. It's not a huge deal because a lot of it ends up getting hidden when you do your different levels in there. So I did make sure that it was seamless on the front there because I wanted it to look like it was, you know, the scene on the outside just extends beyond when you pull that diorama open. So that was what I was going for this one. So I'm going to reinforce my folds here. I did slow this back down, so at least you can see how I put it together. I think it's 2 times the speed, so it's a little faster than normal. And yes, I do my double glue, so glue and double-sided adhesive because, you know, trust issues. So I'm going to line this up as best I can on the side here, giving it, you know, that wiggle room on that clear adhesive really helps a lot, at least for me. And so once you have the first side lined up, it's really easy to get the second side to go right in place. So just folding that one in half, butting it up in the middle. And look, my hills match, my clouds match. You know, I took the time to do it. It did take a little bit of extra time to get everything to line up, just so. And I didn't do a great job on the front, of course. Yeah. And then I moved. So I've got a dust cloud up in the sky. If you've been anywhere in Minnesota lately, it's been, you know, dustier than dusty. So I did bring back in that Slimline stencil and kind of tried to get my clouds to match up as best I could on that panel on the front. So it looks fairly seamless. It's probably not perfect, but it's a pretty good representation of the, you know, whole seamless sky look. Good thing clouds are forgiving. So I did come in with the little corn stamp in the Hey There Hayride stamp set, and I stamped that in Mowed Lawn, and then I'm coming back in with the darker green, and I want to say this one was Rustic Wilderness. Ooh, it was. So to make it all kind of go together, it just kind of filled in the scene. I didn't need to use as many images that were already colored and cut out, but I was afraid of putting stuff on the pull things just because it was the first time I'd done it, so I didn't want to hinder the movement. So keeping it all one layer was kind of the way to go, and I didn't want to do any masking and such because I really was learning, so I didn't want to over, if I'd have masked and done all the things and then it wouldn't have worked, I'd have been sad. So I'm gluing on those little pieces, the little bracket pieces on the back. I don't know what else to call them. Now, my paper, I used 80-pound Nina Classic Crest Solar White Smooth. I maybe would go up, at least on those brackets, I would go with a heavier cardstock because they felt, you'll see when I put it all together. It just feels like it doesn't stay closed, even no matter how many times I came back through with the bone folder. Now, I did end up ordering the hills that go with this one, but I ordered them from Fawn, so they have not arrived yet. And I'm lucky enough to have Crafts Direct, which is close to me, brick and mortar store, so I get to, get the release as soon as I can get to town if it's still in stock. And so I was lucky enough to go and pick it up right away. Now, some things that I learned, because yeah, you can totally add the hills like I did here. I think I have to be a little bit more careful about my height on what, because it has to be short enough to fit in that little slot so it's fold-inable, I guess to say. Now, the other thing is, because I'm like, well, really, it needs to be that long, and it doesn't need to necessarily have one piece. Like, I didn't have to glue this one on top. So I'm totally going to try this with clouds because I think it would be awesome. So it really just needs to be as long as that piece is. Make sure that it's not any wider than, I'm guessing, for the most part, the ends shouldn't be any wider than the narrow part on that big, we're going to call it a letter I because that's what it looks like. And then it would fly between. But then just putting stoppers on the other side. So you can pretty much use what you have, and you wouldn't need to buy the added hill inserts, I guess. That's what I was going for. I'd already ordered them. I probably wouldn't have ordered them after I'd made it because it would be easy enough to do it this way, and it would have saved me a little bit of money. But, I'm sure the ones that come with it are sized for it, so it's a lot less guessing when it comes to it. But so that's what I'm doing here, just making sure that everything lines up right and all of the things. So I did cut that hill to the same size as that eyepiece, so it was just a matter of butting the things, the flaps that I made up to the ends and making sure that it's still opened well. Now, with that bottom piece, I don't know, maybe my flap was too big on the bottom, so maybe I needed to cut it down a little bit. I don't know. It worked for me. That's what I'm going with. And now I'm stumped. I don't know what, because I was thinking I should probably do the inside before I added the top and all the things, and I couldn't remember exactly what I was planning on doing. Yep, brain fart. It happens to the best of us. So I'm going to slide my front panel on here in using those, I don't know, is it a bracket that holds the things? I'm sure Kelly used some word, but I didn't listen, so I don't remember what it's called. Anyways, I slid that on the front there, made sure that it opened. See, it's cool. It worked for the most part. I just wasn't impressed with how my cardstock was. Maybe it's because I don't know. I would either go with, I think a thicker bracket might work better because it would be a little less loose. I don't know. I'll try it. I'll let you know on my next one. So for this one, of course, I was bringing in that case tractor and matching wagon. So for this one, I knew the recipient. It is already in the mail, gone, yeah. This is amazing. We should all take a moment to pause and pick your jaw up off the floor because I actually got it in the mail. So knowing the recipient kind of helped me plan this one. Of course, the orange tractor being a case because that is his favorite tractor. And then also because we just got done with thrashers, and so I took some pictures of his grandkids on the case tractors. And so I was kind of using the little people in this one to represent some of the kids that were in the images. So I printed them. They are already on their way to them. And so that was kind of, the start of this one. I wanted to do more bundle-like looking things because we run the thrashing part or help with the thrashing part. My husband does. I just kind of watch, truthfully. And so I was like, well, but I don't know. I was crunched for time. I needed to get it in the mail. And so this is what I ended up coming up with. So I'm going to add that little barn in the background there. Now, I noticed two things. So I'm sure Kelly probably says it in the video, but because I didn't really watch the whole video, keeping things away from the side just a little bit. So when it closes, it actually can close. So my barn does end up folding on that one corner that's closest to the wall there a little bit. And my pig, well, at the very end, I try to fix it at the very end because this is going to, two people that aren't card makers. They're both in their 80s. I wanted to make sure that it was going to work well, and so I did end up taking the pig off and moving him down because he has to fit in that little slot or be out of the way for that slot or that hill to move a little bit. So those were two things that I realized while I was doing it. So, I tried fixing it here by cutting a little bit of that hill off on the bottom because I figured you're not going to see it anyways because the frame covers it. And it works for the most part, but I did notice that it caught a little bit and I did not want it to catch at all. I wanted to make sure it was smooth and working well for them, and so that's why I ended up, at the end you will see me pull the pig up and move him down a little bit. It worked. I didn't ruin anything. It was fine. Now I have the card for the most part done, and I needed to figure out a sentiment. I struggle sometimes with sentiments. So I ended up pulling out this orange sheet of cardstock or scrap of cardstock, and it matched perfectly with my tractor and my wagon, but I only had one and it was already cut down to an A2 size. So I was like, well, it's going to mount on the middle, so I just ended up cutting out the middle piece, saving paper. It worked. So I stamped that with some VersaFine Onyx black ink, put some clear embossing powder over the top, heat set that, and then I'm going to come in with my Lawn Fawn banner, simple banner dies, and cut that one out of the middle. Now, originally I had thought about going all the way along the top with the banner. And so I was like, and when I set them up on my Misty, I was like, I could come in from each side, and that would be cool. And I was planning on putting both this word and the other part on the front. And then I thought about it and I'm like, well, it's the whole point of this one is ta-da! So the other sentiment went on the inside of the diorama. I have a howdy one that I got as a freebie from ordering from them. I should have done the howdy, writing by to say howdy. So writing by to say, hey there. I thought it was cute. So I will add that one onto the inside here. And make sure it's all stuck down. And then, of course, this is where I realized that, that the barn is folding over just a little bit in the corner. I thought about pulling it up and moving it, but I did not want to risk ruining it at this point, and so I decided to just leave it and let it go. Sometimes we just have to let things go. they're not going to notice that. It's a me thing, and so I decided I needed to let it go. So lining this one up over the top proved to be a little bit of a challenge for me because I was trying not to get my head over the top too badly, but I did end up making it work. And then I'm going to hold it there flat until my glue dries or sets just a teeny tiny little bit, and fold a card base while I'm waiting for it to dry. I'm just going to add that one onto my card front with some liquid glue here. I use glitter art glue, but I think they're all pretty much glitter art glue, and the Barely Art glue I think are fairly similar. So I haven't tried Barely Art, can't tell you the difference between the two. Nouveau glue is a little bit thicker than the Barely Art glue for sure. So because this one is going to some, people that don't understand my interactive love of cards, I did decide to put some little arrows to show that you need to pull out on the side of this one. So would have I needed to? I don't know if I needed to or not, but I just felt that this way, they understood completely what was supposed to happen here. And yes, my mask is coming into view. It's called, I haven't cleaned it, and I really need to clean it now to find that boot, obviously. I had it in my hand. I said it somewhere. I don't know where I said it. So, yeah, I did end up pulling the pig off here and moving him down a little bit. If I'd have realized that I needed to pull him off, I probably would have put him somewhere else, but it's fine. It's done. My first Ta-Da Diorama turned out pretty good for not actually following directions well and kind of making it up as I go, because that's what I do. So hopefully there was a couple of tips in there. So if you didn't buy the hill insert, you can get it by without it. Just play with your heights on there. If you watch Kelly's video, you probably understand that. It happens. So anyways, I hope you have an amazing day. Keep getting inky. Bye!